look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight, your today and your tomorrow. In hindsight, is so much clearer now.
Hey, good morning. How you doing, Janine? And welcome to Hindsight the Podcast.
Thank you so much. Great to be here, Lee. Coming to you live from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, about a mile high.
So here's how this is going to go. I'll just tell a little bit about yourself. You're going to tell me a little more about yourself. I'm going to ask you some questions, and then we're going to wrap it up, right? But the whole point of this is hindsight. So we might get into a little bit of, I don't know, your life. Just a little bit, some of the choices that you've made, and then how those choices have made you who you are today, which I've found to be a very happy, fun-loving young lady. If anybody out there, are you struggling to find balance between work life and personal growth? So today I have with me Janine Bolon. We're just going to have a natural conversation, and we're going to get into it, right? But I do want to make sure that we talk about your books.
Okay.
You've written a few of them.
One or two.
Right, just one or two. So the first thing I want to talk about is something I read about you, that you did homeschooling, one, and two, you've been working from home for how many years now?
Since 1996.
Since 1996. So First of all, how is that? For me, this is amazing, right? To be able to work from home right now.
It's a new thing. Everybody's joined my party, Lee. This is what's happened.
I know, and I remember, because I was in the Army for like a few years, and I remember like you had to write a letter and a justification to be able to work from home. You know, it was a thing, and then I get into the regular world, and it's the same thing, right? But now it's just you're naturally home. So tell me how that experience was for you, and how has it changed even now that everyone else is caught up to you?
Right. I know. I think I'm just out in front. I just think I was one of those out in front. But no, what really has changed was the whole concept around it. I was an analytical biochemist. I was working in the big pharma field. I was making drugs for a living. And I always like to say legal ones. I was using legal drugs for a living.
I was going to ask you.
No. Yeah, you're right. No Breaking Bad going on in my basement. Sorry to disappoint. But the thing is, so when I became pregnant, I was working with viruses. I was working with HIV and viruses much nastier than that. For some reason, corporate America frowns on the fact of having a pregnant woman working in those sort of a hazmat sort of situation. So I was put into quality assurance.
Okay.
And those people have to have very specific training, because my brain, I felt like it was dribbling out. The gray matter was just dribbling out of my ears. I couldn't do it. Hats off to anyone who does QA. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your work. And by the way, Lee, thank you for your service. I'm a Navy brat. My daddy was Navy, and we went where he went. And so it was always on a beach somewhere. So us and the Marines.
Oh man, that's a good life. That's a good life.
It is. We're having fun now. But anyhow, but the homeschooling thing came about because I was pregnant. I knew from my own background, because of my daddy being all over the world and stuff, my mom would teach us out of this 2-volume set called the Lincoln Library of Information. It was huge 2-volume set, and it had mathematics and English and all this stuff. And I remember those were some of the most fun times I ever had, where my mom was sitting on the beach with us. We were going through the Lincoln Library. We were writing our finger in the sand as we were doing our math and our geometry. And my dad was a CB. So for those of you who know, that's construction battalion. So you use just a little bit of geometry. So I was having practical lessons from my parents as they would build things up. My dad would go, I want you to measure out that shadow, and I want you to tell me the angle of elevation of that crane. Well, it was, yes, sir. Let's make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was kind of a little bit about why I decided to homeschool.
Okay. So you mentioned a few things. One, you were pregnant. Two, you were working with a lot of different hazardous type environments. So what were you doing as a career? Were you a nurse?
I was an analytical biochemist, and I was one of those crazy people. This is how bad it was. It was such a new thing when I graduated college 1987.
Okay.
When I graduated college in 1987, I was one of only 200 people that were graduated in 5 years in the biochemistry program. It was so new. The School of Medicine wouldn't take us. The School of Chemistry wouldn't take us. The School of Biology wouldn't take us. We were these bastard children that nobody wanted anything to do with because we were biochemists. We were studying the cell at the molecular level. They're like, that's not really chemistry. That's not really biology. That's how it was seen at that time. And so guess what school took us in? The School of Agriculture.
Okay.
So the School of Agriculture said, we are trying to build food for the 21st century. You help us with the plant biology and all of that. We will help feed the world when we hit the year 2000. So that was part of the process. And that's why I became an analytical biochemist. And I have 15 hours of livestock and meat science because everyone who went through the School of Agriculture had to go through 15 hours of livestock and meat science. So if you want to know about where's the beef, I'll tell you what meat to buy.
Oh, wow. What meat to buy? No. Tell me now. I tell you why, because you look at the news and oh my gosh, it's a recall or some sort of warning about this everywhere. So we won't get into that. We'll do that.
Okay,
later.
all right. We can, but it's up to you, my man. Whatever you want to do, that's where we go.
No. So how was it like growing up? Besides, learning on the beach with your mom, how was your upbringing for you?
I thought everybody moved every 3 years.
Yeah.
I thought, you had parents who were in the military. So my dad was the Navy Seabee, of course, and my mom was a nurse. So that's why I was giggling when you said, were you a nurse? And I went, no, my mom warned me off of that. But they had skill sets that no matter where in the world we were, they could be used. My mom is a nurse. She could get a job anywhere. And my dad, he could build whatever. I have watched him build stuff out of driftwood, So, I mean, it was like you just learned this very savvy way of living. And we weren't what you would call well off, as you know, in the military.
Oh, yeah.
It pays well, it feeds you, it houses you, but it's not like you're going to be the next millionaire with that kind of work. But we were given skill sets. We were given crazy different environments to live in. So you learned how to handle typhoons. You learned how to handle hurricanes. You learned how to handle the earth shaking under your feet because it was a volcano. I mean, you learned that there were things that no matter how well prepared you were never going to be able to prepare for everything. So the best you could do was educate yourself. And I absolutely love with some of these survival shows because they do get this point right. And that is the more you know, the less you need.
Very, very, very interesting. I like that. I'm sitting here, and the reason why I'm pausing is because I'm thinking about that statement and letting it marinate. You know what I'm saying in my mind. Go a little bit deeper on that one. Give me your explanation. The more you know, the less you need.
I wish I could remember the last name of this guy. I think it was called, it was a survival thing where they had two guys, Dual Survivor or something. It was one of those shows. And the guy's name was Cody something. Oh, I have his book. I even bought his freaking book and I can't remember his name.
I think I know you're talking about.
You know the guy I'm talking about? He's the one that ran around barefoot all the time. And they pitted him with a freaking Marine of all things. And so the two of them were always at loggerheads because they wanted that kind of... They wanted that kind of tension, between the dual purpose, right? Whatever. A lot of it was fake, but some of it was not. And when they would talk into the camera, whether it was Cody or the Marine, they would say certain things. And I would write notes down when I would hear those gold nuggets. And that was what Cody said one time. He's like, the more you know, the less you need. That's why he wandered around everywhere barefoot. He didn't use shoes because he was actually feeling the ground. So it was very shamanistic in a way how he walked around. But of course, to a Marine who's been in gosh knows how many different types of places, the last thing you're going to do is lose your boots. I mean, are you insane? Right? So that was that fun thing to have with Dual Survivor. That was it, Dual Survivor.
For me in the military, you think about like the more you know, because you get a whole bunch of gear. So this is where my mind went. You get a whole bunch of gear and you need to know when you need it all or what you need. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of hard to judge when you're really out. So when I was really out deployed in Iraq, it's different than when you're going on a training exercise.
In the forests of Virginia.
Exactly. Well, specifically in the deserts in California. So
welcome to the stumps.
That is a really good statement that can really carry on into other things as well. I'll go on a vacation and I'll pack everything. And I feel crazy doing it because I'm like, I know I'm not going to wear all this, but I might need it. I might, right? Because I don't know what that vacation is going to entail. I don't know what experiences you know what I'm saying? So that's from a different approach to it.
I want to talk about during your experiences when you did go to Iraq, you knew what you needed and you knew what you did not want to have to haul. So when you see these people with 180-pound packs on their back, you're looking at them going, okay, I know you're required to carry that right now, but you want to be thinking the reason they do that to you is to make sure that you always know exactly what you do want to haul. Because if you have to go 15 to 30 miles in a day, you don't want to be hauling or packing some of that stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes realistically you need all of that stuff, right? So you want to be physically fit to be able to carry that 80 pounds
that if you
around.
have to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys were boots on the ground, so you understand that. But let's go back to vacation for just a minute.
Okay.
When you go to your vacation and you're like, I might need this, I might need that. Now you're preparing for all the things that you can possibly conceive, right?
Yes.
But life is not built that way. If you're going on vacation, you're going someplace you don't know. You're going into an environment that you may or may not understand. If you're going to a foreign country, you don't even know what kind of meds you're going to be able to take with you, right? There's so much you don't know. And I know that I'm going to say it probably wrong for you, but I know people will drop into their intuition or drop into their heart chakra. Like they'll move into their heart and go, okay, what do I really need? And if you pause and you give it that 3-second beat, pause, then the next beat that you have will be like, okay, that can go. And when you start looking at your suitcase and going, what can I get rid of? That puts your brain and your heart in synchronicity so that you start pitching stuff out instead of what do I need? What can I leave? And so that focus, that shift of mindset is very helpful.
I have that good shift of mindset when I'm shopping. And I got a cart full of stuff. I'm like, all right, I don't need this.
What can I leave behind? That's why I like the local library. They have this red shelving system. It's for all the books that you don't want to have to shelve back. I'm like, where's the grocery shopping cart so I can put everything back that I know I don't want to walk through checkout in.
Absolutely. I know. Anyway, so there's
moving on.
The point is, listeners, there's a lot of applications.
Yes,
for
yes,
this
sir.
saying, right?
Most definitely.
So with a diverse background in academia, entrepreneurship, homeschooling, like how do you manage and maintain your work-life balance? And I ask that a lot and I get a lot of different answers. And so I'm intrigued to see what your answer is.
Okay. This is my favorite question, by the way. You get that platinum star we were talking about earlier. This is my favorite question.
Okay.
The word balance is what trips us up. The word balance requires energy and effort. So anyone who's taken any iota of physics will understand exactly what I'm talking about. I want you to think about Cat in the Hat. When he's standing on a ball and he's balancing all those things, you constantly have to be aware. You must have situational awareness. You're constantly in a state of stress when you are trying to balance. But if I use this word, how do I maintain my work-life harmony? Do you feel the weight? All of a sudden, it's like a totally different thing. All of a sudden, you're in a very different place. So unless I mean balance, I don't use that word. That was something that I learned in 1995. Okay. I had a situation that occurred where somebody told me I had to balance something. And I am an analytical biochemist. We have scales. We are constantly calibrating our balances. Okay.
Right.
And so that was something that I was very physically aware of as we were constantly calibrating those things and how they would fall out of what we call tear very easily. Very easily.
Okay.
It took nothing. You could breathe on some of those micro balances wrong. And they were that temperamental.
Wow.
So that's balance.
Okay.
But harmony is different. So that's how I choose to interpret it. And I just encourage your listeners and yourself to start seeing your life as a harmonious dance. And of course, that comes from my Asian background. During my elementary school years, I was being raised in Japan. And so I really understood more about harmony. It wasn't until I came to Western civilization and Western mindsets that the word balance replaced harmony. And that I saw as a deficit for our civilization. So anyhow, so how do I do it? Very easy. I know what I want. I know what I want.
Okay.
It's very easy to live life and to handle the storms of life if you know what you want, if you are so focused, And of course, I have my marksmanship badge. I'm a good Girl Scout, got my marksmanship badge. And I knew the power of if you've got a target and you know how to sight your rifle, you are in good stead. You are doing just fine. Thank you very much. As soon as you start paying attention to anything that is not in your sights and you get distracted, you know what happens to your aim.
Yeah. Well, you say a lot of things in that military surroundings and military environment that you were in. For me, it's more the land nav. So when we went to do land navigation, and we had our compass, we had a map, and then we had the earth, right? So we had to figure out where we were going and maybe a pin. And so I know that, they taught us first you got to orient yourself, right? So you need to orient yourself to your surroundings. And then you need to plot your course, right? And the first time that I went out with this new knowledge, I did not orient my surroundings. I didn't orient myself to my surroundings.
Okay.
And so I found my first point, but then I was off because there was nothing really to, you need 2 points to kind of go to a third. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, you do.
So there was nothing really for me to. So I was lost. And I'm walking around out in the woods in North Carolina. Actually, it wasn't even woods. It was the cornfields. So I'm walking around in the cornfields lost, and I'm like, where is other soldiers? Where are they at? Right. And then finally I found somebody and I kind of just followed them around, right? And obviously I didn't find all my points on that first one, but that was a big enough lesson, because I didn't properly set my mind and myself up to get to my destination on my point. So hearing what you're saying about, what you want, where you're going, right? It resonates. All these little lessons from the military, right? How it really applies.
Well, for me, it was my orienteering merit badge. Okay,
there you go.
I'm a Girl Scout. So for me, when you're going land nav, I went, you mean an orienteering, and then you qualified. So that's the thing. But no matter what metaphor you folks want to use, everyone who's listening, it doesn't matter what metaphor you want to use. The thing is, we both knew our destination. That was the very first thing. Didn't matter where they dropped you, Lee. You knew where you wanted to end up.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what crooked hog's leg trail you took to get there.
I took plenty of them.
Exactly.
I was so scared. Look.
I know. There's nothing worse. Look, I will take being lost in the woods over being lost in a cornfield. Having been in Iowa in 800 acres of corn, I understand the panic because the canopy is 7 foot.
Yes.
And don't unless you've been in that environment.
I'm just keeping it real this morning. I'm keeping it real.
It is terrifying. You've never seen, even if you haven't seen the movie Children of the Corn, you're freaking out.
Oh, I did.
But you have to know your destination.
Absolutely.
If you don't know where you want to be. So back to harmonious life and work balance. I have a boss. Even though I'm self-employed, I have a boss. Yeah. And that boss is my calendar. And nothing is more precious than my time. That is the single most important thing. Nobody gets on my calendar unless I want them on my calendar. So that is where I start. I have my target. I have the lifestyle, the life I want to live. I've created a vision board. I have my, 5-year goals, my 10-year goals. I've got my this year goals. But really, it's the day-to-day elements that are moving me toward those long-term goals. So I read my long-term goals every day. I have them on a whiteboard, and as soon as I wake up in the morning and I open my door, I have a hallway on the other side. There's a whiteboard there, and bam, on that whiteboard are my goals. And I have, I want to have this amount of money as income. I want this, I want that, it's bum, 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 all that. And I say to myself, what are the 3 things that are going to move me forward to these goals today? See, I haven't even looked at my calendar yet. I don't know what's happening in my life yet. Right? Because I have people that put stuff on my calendar for me now. And anyway, I'm looking at that. And as I write those 3 things down, then I go to my, coffee, get my coffee, turn on my computer, look at my desk, and I go, okay, what's happening today? I go, wow. I look at the 3 things that are going to move me forward to my goal. And I look what's on my calendar and I go, something has to come off my calendar. These goals right here.
Wow.
That's what my life is. Not that. And then I start moving and grooving and calling my assistant and saying, Tasha, we need to move some things around. And so people say, oh, Janine, you're so structured. You're so formal. You're like a stick in the mud. It's like, if I need to know where north is, I go, where's Janine? It's like, that's where, this teasing. I got teased a lot about that. Yeah. But they don't understand how flexible I am because I'm so clear on what I want. That I have my calendar set up so I have it all time blocked. And so when you see time as your most valuable asset, then you start taking care of your health. You start taking care of your money. You start taking care of your lifestyle. All of the other things fall in place because, as Benjamin Franklin said, we're all given the same 24 hours in a day.
Janine, so I do have some structured questions, right? I had some questions that I said earlier, I'm going to ask you a few questions, but you seem to answer them. Here's my question right here. What strategies have you found most effective in pursuing personal growth while juggling multiple responsibilities? And boom, you start talking about your vision board. You start talking about your calendars, your boss. You start that's crazy. So tell me more. If you're looking to get some time back, right? Now, I know you're very structured. Say the average person isn't very structured. Right. What is something they can do to help be a little more structured from your perspective? Do you have any tips, any hacks?
Yes.
Life hacks? Okay.
I do have 3 life hacks. The first one is don't ever sit down in front of a television unless it is moving you toward your 10-year goals. So I watch a lot of documentaries. Okay.
Okay.
That's the first thing. The second thing is hire someone else to handle your social media. Do not touch social media. Stay off of it. Get away from it. If you want to truly empower your life, people talk a lot about empowerment. We've been talking about it since the 70s. But the thing is, if you really want your personal power, do not feed anything that doesn't feed you back. Okay. And a lot of people say, but that's where I get my leads. That's where I do this. I'm like, hire someone else and I can help you with scripts and come to my open Friday coffee. And I will talk to you about this ad nauseum because I want you to be successful. And I don't want you hoodwinked into a lifestyle that is not of your own making. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you can hire people for very little. And if you say, I don't have the money, then I say, get your butt out of debt then. Kick that debt to the curb. Now, there are 5 reasons why people get into debt that have nothing to do with what they've done. Okay. And I always assume that if somebody is in debt, I always make the assumption one of those 5 events happened, and that's why you're in debt. So that's where I start with you. Now, if you have too much shame that you won't come to me, then let me tell you, the dark side of life, that shadow, has you under its thumb. It's got you right. It's going to keep you in that guilt and that shame, and you will never move. You will never step into the light. You will never be that powerful warrior or warrioress or goddess. I mean, there's a lot of terms floating around now, but you'll never be any of that. And that's what I want you to step into. I want you to step into that godhood. I want you to step into that goddesshood, however you identify. I want you to step into that light and be a force. I want you to be the force. I want you to be the Lee Jones force that pushes into this world and says, I will be seen.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't know if I can ask you this.
You can ask me anything. I don't have to answer, right?
Exactly. But give us one of those 5 reasons that you go into debt that's not by your doing?
Medical bills.
All right, give me 2. One more. Just one more, and I'll stop. Sure.
A financially unsavvy spouse that spins you into bankruptcy. It can be male or female. I've heard both sides.
Right. Got you. Okay. Those are 2. So you need to reach out to Janine to get all 5 of them. All right.
You can go to the almighty God of Google and type it in. What are the top 5 reasons people go into debt? And you will find it. You don't have to go to Janine.
Yeah, you can get the top 5, right? But then you go to the next post and it'll give you a different 5, right? So just go ahead and say the top 10. Just
right.
so
That's
you
right.
can figure it out.
And you will figure it out. But there are very good reasons why people are in debt. Meaning, when I say good, meaning not of your own making.
Yeah.
Like not of your own making. And that's what I assume about everybody who comes to me. I don't care how you got into debt. I want you to start shoveling to get out.
Yeah. Oh man. I hear you. Okay. I love it. Hire someone to do your social media. Stay away from TV unless it's going to push you forward to what your goals are. And get out of debt.
Yeah, and get out of debt. Those are the top 3. Now, when I talk about, let me talk about TV, because I get a lot of pushback on TV. I'm tired after the day. I just want my brain to rest and blah, blah, blah. And I said, then watch physics. Watch Neil Geisen, whatever his name is, physicist extraordinaire. Love that guy. Listen to him. Get on YouTube. You can put it on your TV. Get onto YouTube and watch some of his 45-minute interviews. Educate yourself on something that is amazing, such as our planet, how our planet spins in the cosmos. I'm sorry, this is a passion of mine. I absolutely love cosmology. And it's like, and it may be something to do with the Navy. We were always looking at the stars. Go figure. We were always looking at the constellations. I get down to Australia. It took me 50 years. Yes, 50 years to get down to Australia, save enough. I spent a whole month down there. And every night I was running outside. And what was I looking for, Lee?
Constellation,
the Southern Cross. The Southern Cross. It's the only place. The only place you see it is in the Southern Hemisphere. And I had heard that song since I was a young thing about the Southern Cross. And when you see it for the first time, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, when you see it for the first time, you know now why you've been here. And I remembered that lyric, and I went out and I saw it, and I'm like, they knew it. It's true, So
yeah,
I get a little impassioned about stuff like that.
I see. Well, since we're talking, did you get a chance to see the eclipse?
Oh, why, yes. I ran out in my stocking feet and to the driveway, and I had my 2 pieces of paper, and I had my pen hole, and I watched the eclipse. We only got about 18 to 20% here in Colorado. But yes, of course I did.
Yeah. Well, I saw in was it 2040 something? It's supposed to go straight across the country. So maybe at that point you can get that at least 90-something% totality.
I will
of whatever
love
it is.
And to our listeners, for those of you who are in debt, when you do that in 2040, make sure you have extra gasoline in tow with you, because the gas station's prices went up by almost 20 to 50%, because they knew everybody was going to drive home from watching the eclipse. Be aware, Be prepared, stay out of debt.
You heard it here first. You got 20 years to prepare.
So let's get it on, folks. Let's make it happen. Let's go.
All right. So I know we talked about harmony, so we won't use harmony. But you talked about how you've structured your professional career, right? But how do you prioritize your time and ensure that you continue to grow personally and professionally?
Oh, they're not different.
I know. And I was, because of the answer that you just gave, like about if you watch TV, then watch something education, all these different things. But go ahead and finish.
I do not see my work as separate from myself. I think that gets us in a lot of trouble. What part of my work, it's not my identity, okay? Yeah, I do XYZ for a living. That that is, some people have that as an identity, but I choose not to identify that way. It is a part of the activity in my life, and I enjoy what I'm doing. Even when I was bagging groceries at King Soopers because I needed a couple of extra dollars for my family, because we kind of hit a rough spot as an entrepreneur. Sometimes those things happen, right?
Yeah.
And you have to go do a job that some people would consider menial, and I'm sitting there celebrating, woohoo, $500. I'm like, this is income I can guarantee on, because as an entrepreneur, that doesn't always happen, right? So I was always in a happy, good place, bagging groceries, cracking jokes, telling people, have a good day, putting jokes in their bags.
Putting jokes in their bags.
Well, yeah, I'd write jokes in the evening. On pieces of paper while I was watching TV. I happen to like Mike Tyson quite a bit. Neil. I can't even remember his name now. I'm so excited. But anyway, I would listen to the physicist, and as I was listening to him, I would write out jokes, or I'd let him know, do you know you're made of stardust? Keep shining bright. Little positive things, and I'd slip it into their bags.
Okay.
And anyway, pretty soon we started having a line. We had a line. People wanted, they would move. They would move with me. They wanted their little strips of paper. And I wish I could take credit for this. I cannot. There was a mentally challenged, I don't know the PC. Lee, keep me on PC. Don't get me in trouble. But there was a mentally challenged young man, and that's what he did. He would go home at night and he would write little sayings, and then he would put those sayings, and I got the idea from him.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is.
That's amazing. And then you had a positive impact on the people, like watching the lines grow behind you. That's pretty cool.
It is.
No one's in a rush to get their stuff done, right? They're like, okay, we'll wait because it's worth it.
Because I want that little thing in my bag. And so that's the thing. Whatever your work is, that's where you bring, this is how you stay in your power.
Right.
You're like, yes, I have to obey so many rules. There are so many rules with every job. They want you to say this. They want you to respond that. They even have scripts on how you can answer the phone. They have scripts on how you say thank you. You can't say thank you. It has to say my pleasure. You don't say you're welcome. And oh my God, don't screw up the pronouns. All right. So there's a lot that we're all moving and grooving with.
Right.
But what you do have is you can be kind.
Mm-hmm.
You can be kind in the midst of chaos. And when you find yourself triggered, because that happens occasionally with me, I get a little triggered.
Okay.
I'll say, I'm so sorry. Right now I'm very angry and I need to go take care of this. I'll be back. I need 3.5 minutes. And I go and I do some deep breathing in a corner somewhere.
Wow.
And come back. That is standing in your power. That's knowing when you are at your best. It's letting people know when you're at your worst. And you know what? People all of a sudden start to see you as a human being, and they want to emulate you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I learned an interesting lesson when I was in the military. I had to go to anger management, and the first thing,
figure. We give you weapons and ammo. We would like you to know how to control your anger. Thank you, Lee.
So the first thing they tell you is only you can make, they said a whole lot of other words first, but the first lesson that resonated with me is only you can allow yourself to become mad at something, right?
Right.
And I didn't understand it at first, and it's just hearing you say, staying in your power, and hey, I'm a little deterred right now. Give me a moment.
Yeah. Give me a second.
Process this, and then we can move forward, right? It just resonates, right? In being in your power. And a lot of the things, to your earlier point, there are a lot of things that we allow to control our journey, right? Our destination. And one of those is stuff that we believe. You do something, so I should be mad. You do something, so I should cry. You do something, so I should laugh. And that's not the case. All the time. So I'm telling you the things that I've learned in the military or through life, right? And I'm really loving talking to you. I I really am, you know. So could you share some of your insights from your experiences in starting and managing multiple businesses, including the 8 gates?
That's the
And tell us,
mothership.
yeah, and
Yes.
tell us a little bit about the 8 gates.
Yeah, the 8 gates was when I realized I couldn't do things other people's way. And that was in 2015. That's when the 8 gates was born. That's the mothership, as I like to say, because I have 4 businesses under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is I attract 4 different types of people. I attract those that are in debt. I attract those that are psychics. I attract those that are solopreneurs, and I attract writers. And so I needed to come up with a way to incorporate everything that I had harmonized in my own life and still cater to those 4 very diverse, very different demographics.
Yeah.
And the marketing professionals will let you know, whatever you do, don't try to build multiple businesses at once, only do one at a time. Again, I did not listen to that, and I built out all 4 businesses at the same time. Why? Because I used the same model for all 4. And as you remember from your history, Lee, when it comes to the Roman army, what did they have? They had architects, and the architects would go out in front of the marching centurions, right? And would go out in front, and they set up their camps exactly the same way every time they camped. If you had a camp, you could be guaranteed the latrines were there, the mess hall was there, everything was set up identical. It was efficient, and it was a force to be reckoned with for over 1,000 years. So they knew a little something going on. Okay.
Right.
So that's what I did. I used the same exact model for all 4 businesses, and I went ahead and marketed. And so people say, well, what does Janine do? And depending upon what workflow they have come in on, I call it a workflow. Some people say funnel. But depending upon how they come into my world, they will tell you 4 different things. And that's when people started saying things like, I think I'm talking about a different Janine Bolon, because I also have the shaman side of me where I was struck by lightning when I was in middle school. And one of the things about being in the Bahamas, where my dad was, we had the Catholic Church on one side of the street on the little island of Eleuthera, and we had the voodoo priestesses on the other side of the street.
Wow.
And so I learned my catechism during the day, and then at night, the priestesses would take us out on the beach and taught us the 12-year cycle of the moon and the constellations and the stories of the stars.
Wow. Okay. Got 10 minutes, so I can't dig into that one.
8 minutes. No, that's the 8 gates. So the 8 gates is that perspective of there are
Beautiful.
8 dimensions that operate around us at any one time. And you stand at the center of that. How you choose to enact and engage with those 8 dimensions is what creates your life.
What are some key principles that you advocate for achieving creativity, joy, and adventure in one's life and work? And I bring that question up just hearing your experience in the Bahamas and the priest is teaching you, that all of that kind of goes hand in hand. So
it does.
What are some key principles there?
If you're not happy, find out why.
Okay.
Dig into that. Really dig. If you're not happy with what you're doing, find out why.
Yeah.
Find out what your why is. And then if you come across, well, I'm not happy because he, she, they, please realize you've put the locus of control external to your life. That locus of control, as they say in psychology, will leave you as a victim. Okay. Please remember your ego presents itself in 3 different ways. It presents itself as the victor. I am, right. And people, oh, he's narcissist. I went, no, he's self-confident. Right. So narcissism is something that's so big right now that people who are confident are labeled as narcissistic. I'm like, listen, if they're single, they need to be narcissistic. What does it mean to be narcissistic? Now, I am not a psychologist. All right. But what do you need to be a narcissistic? You need to be respected and cherished. You want people to respect you. You want them to love you. Now that becomes a problem when you're in a relationship because one of you needs to be respected. The other needs to take the role of being cherished. And there are different roles and rules for those things for a harmonious relationship. We can talk about that later. But moving on to your personal life of being joyful, keep the locus of control internally. Why am I not happy now? And if you find that you are in a toxic relationship, or if you find that you are with a person who is on drugs, is beating you, is on alcohol, is unable to stop working and does not give you the time of day,
Yeah.
that means, why have you allowed yourself to represent what the ego's second way of performing, which is being a victim? Why do you allow yourself to be put in situations and present as the victim? It's hard to hear, but that's where you are. So you're either a victor, you're a victim, or number 3. My favorite place to present my ego is the lover. I am a lover of life. I love people, and that is the way I choose to present my ego. Yeah.
Victim, victor, or lover.
Lover.
I
The
love
Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama's a lover.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people we represent, I don't know, the big JC, Jesus Christ, Jesus the Christ, however you go, the lover.
Yeah.
Krishna, the lover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, so tell us a little bit about your books. How many books did you write?
I think I'm at 17 or 18. My publisher says I've missed a few, but I haven't gone back to count them yet.
What is your most impactful one to you?
The one you read.
Okay.
The one you read, Lee. If you haven't read one, might want to dig one out.
Okay. That's
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's
so
the one that the reader reads that makes the most impact on them. That's the most impactful book.
Okay, let's put it like this. So what led you to write your first book? Let's
My
nail
students
it down.
were starving.
Okay.
I had students I was at a liberal arts college in 2003 called George Wythe University. It was in Cedar City, Utah. I was one of the few, I was the only non-Mormon faculty member, so I was the token non-Mormon. And my students, I was teaching math and physics at the time. And I noticed that my students' grades were dropping. And I realized it's because they didn't know how to handle or budget money. And so they would run out of their scholarship money. And so they were eating things like, cup of noodles, ramen, Dinty Moore stew, trying to get through school. And let me tell you something, your analytical reasoning skills goes into the toilet if you're not nutritionally taking care of yourself. So as their grades dropped, I realized they were running out of money. And so that's why I started the first book, Money, It's Not Just for Rich People.
Got you. Okay. I like it. Are you still a podcaster?
Yes. You can catch the Janine Bolon show on YouTube.
There you go. And then I'm getting quick questions now.
Rapid fire, dude. We got 3 minutes.
And then you got your latest book, what, author podcasting?
That is the most recent lead mag. The most recent one now is Published Profitability: The Author's Guide 2.0.
Okay. Oh, you knocking them out.
Yeah, thank you. A book a year, dude. Book a year.
Absolutely. So, Janine, thank you so much for being on the show and giving me a lot of insight, right? So, just so everyone knows, I had little problems with my what is it called? Earbuds.
Yeah.
Headset and earbuds, right? So, with my earbuds, so it took away some of your time that she could have give you some more gems in there. So, it's all on me. You can blame it on me. But Janine, where can the listeners reach out to find out a little bit more about you?
I think the easiest is to go on to LinkedIn and type in Bolon, Bolon, Janine Bolon. You want to do that so that you get a hold of Lynette. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Lynette will say, hey, join Janine at our Open Friday Coffee. It's totally free every Friday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's part of the podcast that I run. Ask me any question you want. I will choose whether or not I want to answer it. But the biggest thing is I'm there to help you. And this is a way to get into my world free of charge and very easily.
All right. I love it. So I know we got like 1 minute. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, I do. I want you folks to keep listening to Lee Jones. The reason why this Hindsight podcast is so successful and attracted somebody like me to it is because it is of the light. He wants you to be better. He wants you to learn from others so that you can prove to yourself that you are worthy of love, you are worthy of money, and you are worthy of a better life. So keep listening to Lee.
Oh, thank you so much for the plug. I appreciate you and for giving so much. But thank you for sharing your insight. Thank you for giving us some of those life hacks and tips and, it's just some clarity on things that you just sometimes you take for granted, watching TV or letting someone else get you mad or pissed off, right? And not owning your own happiness, owning your own direction. So I really appreciate all the knowledge that you spit to me and my guests. And I love the lover, ego that you personify in the joy that you bring. So thank you so much, Janine. And
My
I
pleasure.
look forward to talking to you in the future. And I will read that book now that you jumped all on me.
Have a great day, my friend.
See you soon. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. To make sure that you don't miss a single episode, why don't you just go ahead and subscribe? And also, I have a quick survey. It'll take you 1 to 3 minutes just so I can get a better understanding on how to get the best content to you. So here that is as well. Until next time, once again, thank you.